There's a house in North Idaho that's going to break somebody's heart in about 15 years. And right now, they're probably trying to buy it. Everybody moving to Idaho is asking the same question. Is now a good time to buy? Cute question, wrong question, because here's the thing nobody trying to sell you a house wants to say out loud. You're not just buying a home, you're signing up to sell one someday. Future you, the one who's older, maybe done with stairs, maybe needs the cash, that guy. And the future you is going to be very interested in whether anybody actually wants to buy your dream home that you fell in love with. So let's talk about what cooling actually means, because the internet hears that word and immediately pictures 2008 and a guy crying over his Corvette he's selling on Craigslist for half price. That's not this. Here's the real version. The median single family home in Kootenai County actually dipped, down about 0.2% year over year as of March 2026 report. It's a tiny number, but here's why it matters. That's the first time it's declined in over 2 years. The line that only went up stopped going up. Meanwhile, Sandpoint, Bonner County, is down about 3.5% year over year, sitting around 497,000. And Coeur d'Alene proper is technically still up about 1.9%, median around 596,000. So the picture isn't everything's crashing, the picture is the air is coming out slowly and not evenly. Some places are holding, some already turned, and telling them apart is the entire ballgame. And here's the one number that should stop you cold, though. A recent affordability study found roughly 80% of Kootenai County households are already priced out of the current market. 80%. So when you buy in at today's prices, the people who actually live and work here, the teachers, the nurses, the guy who plows your road, most of them can't buy your house back from you. Hold on to that because it matters more than you think, and we'll come back to it. So let me tell you about the house that proves all of this. There was a house in St. Mary's listed at $1.4 million, and it was breathtaking. Beautiful views, beautifully built, real craftsmanship, genuinely a wonderful place to own a home. If you drop that exact house anywhere near Coeur d'Alene, it's gone in a weekend, probably over asking. People would have been fighting over it, but it didn't sell. Not for a long time. They cut the price, then cut it again, and we're talking several $100,000 off before it finally moved. Several $100,000 on a house where nothing, and I mean nothing, was wrong with the house. So what happened? I'm going to tell you. Here's what happened. The buyer pool for a $1.4 million home does not want to live 30 minutes too far from Coeur d'Alene. That's it. That's the whole story. The house was perfect. The location relative to who buys houses like that was the problem. And here's the part that should make the hair on your neck stand up. Without somebody local telling you that, you'd never have seen it coming. The listing photos are flawless, and examples like this is why my channel exists. So real quick, if this is the kind of straight talk you came here for, the stuff most agents won't say because they'd rather just get the commission and move on, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. And if you actually are trying to make this move and you want somebody who will tell you where not to buy, there's a phone number and email address down in the description, or you can scan this QR code and schedule a time to talk with me and my team. No pressure, it's no hard sell, just a real conversation. Okay, let's get back to it. Because here's the thing. That St. Mary's house wasn't a fluke. It's a type, and there are 3 kinds of houses up here that turn into that exact situation. The third one is the real trap because right now, it's the single hottest thing buyers are chasing. Let's count them down. Number 1, the prepper compound. You know the one. Way out at the end of the dirt road, off-grid, solar panels, a well, probably a shipping container buried in the backyard that's not getting disclosed on the listing description. Built for exactly one kind of buyer, somebody prepping for major disasters, black swan events as they're called. And look, I get the appeal. Nobody's knocking on your door asking to borrow sugar during the apocalypse.
5 minutes! I said 5 more minutes!
But here's your problem. That's a microscopic buyer pool even when times are good. And when the market cools, it shrinks to basically nothing. Because Karen with the 401k and the 2 kids is not driving 40 minutes down a washboard road to tour your bunker. Therefore, when it comes time to sell, you're not setting the price. The one person on earth who wants it is. Good luck with that. At least the prepper house knew what they were getting into. The next one gets people who had no idea what they were signing up for until their creaking joints let them know it was a bad decision. Number 2, the high maintenance house, the 4-story lakefront paradise. The waterfront stunner with 60 steps down to the dock. It is gorgeous and it is the retirement dream. You stand on that deck with a coffee and you think, I am never going to leave this place. And I'm sure you mean it. But you're buying it at 62. So picture you at 78. Those 60 steps to the water aren't a charming feature anymore. They are a nightmare. They're the reason you have to sell. Therefore, the buyer pool for a stair-heavy, high-upkeep, 4-story home skews towards younger and richer clients, which, fun fact, is exactly the buyer who disappears first when the market cools and interest rates climb. It's all fun and games until you're hauling your groceries up 4 flights and your knees become your enemy. Which brings me to the one nobody wants to hear about, because right now it's the hottest ticket in North Idaho real estate. Number 3, the big acreage property. The 20, 40, 100 acres out in the county. Constant upkeep, and I want to be really clear here. These are not bad properties. That's what makes this one so sneaky. Right now, everybody wants land. The world feels like it's on fire, so people want space, self-sufficient. Right now, everybody wants land. The world feels like it's on fire, so people want space, self-sufficiency, room to breathe, and distance from other humans. I completely understand this instinct. But here's what history tells us, and it's not even close. Land prices are more volatile than home prices. That's not my opinion. That's straight out of the economic research. Rural land runs up the hardest in a boom and gets hit the hardest in a bust. So let's follow the logic. The reason that acreage is hot right now is sentiment. It's a mood, and moods revert. They always have. When the world calms back down, and let's all pray that it does, the premium people are paying for 20 acres an hour from the nearest hospital, that softens. Therefore, if the only reason a property is hot is a feeling, you're betting that feeling lasts forever, and it never, ever has. Now, big caveat, because I'm not telling you all land is a trap. 20 acres, 10 minutes from town is a totally different animal than 20 acres an hour out. Location and amenities still rule everything. The volatile stuff is the far-flung, hard-to-reach, nothing nearby acreage. The land close to where people actually need to be, that holds up just fine. The distance is the risk, not the dirt, obviously. Okay, let's zoom out from house types for a second and talk about price, because there's a pattern in cooling markets so reliable you could set your watch to it. When the market softens, the high end falls first, falls hardest, and sits the longest. This is not a hunch. This is fact. Back in 2022, when rates spiked, luxury home sales dropped over 28% in a single year, the biggest drop on record at the time, and steeper than the regular market's decline. And go back to the 2008 crash. High-priced homes had something like a 40-month supply sitting on the market versus under 10 months for everything else. 4 times the wait. Why? Simple. When rates jump, the luxury buyer pool doesn't shrink, it evaporates. The person who could afford a $1.5 million home last year is suddenly capped at $800,000 this year. Same person, half the budget. Therefore, if you stretch and overpay at the very top of a cooling market, you're buying into the exact slice that's hardest to get back out of. Remember musical chairs? You really don't want to be the one holding the most expensive chair when the music stops. I'm not sure that analogy totally makes sense, but you get what I'm saying. So let me get serious for a minute and tell you the story of why I actually am making this video. A couple of months ago, I helped my parents find their place up here. And going through that process with them at their stage of life changed how I look at every single house I walk into. Because the list of what actually mattered was nothing like what you'd put on a dream home wish list. It needed to be one level, or at least the master in everything they use day to day on the main floor. No big runs of stairs. They wanted neighbors close by for safety and for community, not isolation on some gorgeous ridge. And they wanted to be near a hospital, not someday, now. And standing in those houses with them, it hit me. That is the checklist. That's the whole thing I've been dancing around this entire video. Because someday, that's the buyer, or that's you, the version of you that needs one level and a short drive to the ER. The house that serves the back half of your life is almost never the same house that wins the bidding war when you're 55 and feeling invincible. Most folks buying their dream out here are buying the opposite of what they'll need, and they don't find out until they can't get out. So here's where I land all of this. I am not telling you not to move to North Idaho. I love it here. I'm telling you to buy like you'll someday have to sell, because you will. That's not pessimism, that's just math and biology. There are really two Idahos right now. There's the Idaho with staying power, the resort towns, the lake towns, the places people are always going to want to live, where demand doesn't just evaporate when the mood changes. And then there's a hot trend Idaho, the stuff that's selling today purely because everybody's rushing in at once, and that only works out if you never, ever have to leave. Buy the life, absolutely. Just make sure it's a life you can also walk away from when the time comes. If this saved you from a six-figure mistake, hit like so the algorithm shows it to the next person about to buy the wrong house. Subscribe if you want the honest version of North Idaho instead of the brochure. And when you're ready to actually do this, the number and email address are below, and there's the QR code if you want to schedule a time to talk with me and my team. Let's find you a house you can love and leave when the time comes. I'll see you in the next one.